friends. Welcome to Whoop with Jen. Well, where in the world have I been? I have not dropped a pod in months. And I got to tell you, it's hard to get back in the saddle and behind the mic again. It's like I've lost my confidence along the way by taking a break from doing this podcast. And you wonder if you're missed and you wonder if people care. But given the circumstances of where we are today in March of 2020 and a coronavirus pandemic going on, I thought, well, my real estate business is going to hell because no one is wanting to make, a major purchase like that right now. And so I guess I just have time now to do the pod because we are all going to be getting very close. So I have a couple things I want to cover today, and I'm not as scripted or organized as I normally am because I just had to rip off the Band-Aid and, get back into my seat. I have a current career, I guess, as an accounting consultant. And I built it up in 2009 after I was laid off from a very large publicly traded home builder in 2008, which was ironically kind of reminiscent of where we're looking at today. The stock market's been crashing over, the last week. And in 2008, 2009, there was the whole real estate crisis, which was, due to subprime mortgages and, people being awarded mortgages and loans that they couldn't afford and didn't qualify for. And we're not in that same position, so to speak, because the banks have made decent improvements on qualifying home buyers. But, the market's in just a shitfall because of the coronavirus scare that's going on right now. So it's just really odd to kind of be in this position that I was when I started my consulting business. I got laid off in 2008, and my daughter's daycare kicked her out because they didn't feel like they were adequately skilled to handle her disabilities, which, by the way, is against the law because there is something called the American Disabilities Act. But, I had fought them so hard on keeping her there. And frankly, if they weren't trained to handle her needs, then I didn't want her there anyway. So here I am, unemployed, at home, with a disabled daughter, and the market is shit, and our house isn't worth what we put into it, and it was just an awful time back then, and I probably have a whole pod segment that I want to do about that. But what I'm trying to get to is that I started my consulting business through my network and people that I had worked with at Ernst & Young and Deloitte & Touche, and I got really good word-of-mouth referrals and ended up just gradually growing this consulting business that I've been doing since then. And I operate as a part-time controller or an interim CFO, or I come in for a special project, or I recreate financial records so that a company can get audited and get a loan. And it's been great for me because I have flexibility. My dog is barking upstairs. That's Sadie. Yes, we are housebound, self-quarantined for coronavirus, so the dogs are starting to act out. So I took on a client back in June of 2019, and I thought I could, add it on to my real estate business, and it was supposed to be a 6-week project, and I was referred to it by a gentleman that I used to work with at Ernst & Young, and I also consulted for him when he was the CFO at a startup. And I trust him implicitly, and basically this company needed someone to come in for 6 weeks to replace an assistant controller until they filled her position and help with the audit. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's easy. Like, I never actually was an assistant controller. All of my positions were at a higher level. So I figured I'd, walk in and it would be a total breeze. And I was there for 7 months. I have an NDA, so I can't go into a ton of detail, but it was just sort of like the perfect storm where I didn't realize that they had a major equity restructuring during the year that would require dual year carve-out financial statements, and they also acquired a company, and the audit requirement was going to be very extreme. and they let go their CEO and their CFO my 6th day there. I had to fire an accounting manager my 2nd week there. And it just was kind of a clusterfuck. And I don't blame anybody. Like, nobody knew how it was. And I met amazing people and I think built good relationships, but it ended up being a lot more work than I had originally anticipated. And I was there, and we had a deadline on Friday the 13th in December to have the audited financials done. And so I'm working with Deloitte & Touche. I'm working with a third-party tax firm that does the tax provision. I'm working with the audit people, the tax people, plus a third-party financial statement preparation firm. And in those final days, I was working 15 hours or more, and we were working in shifts. So I would work, starting at 6 or 7 a.m. and then I'd get to the point where I would hand off a deliverable to the financial people at like 12:30 in the morning, and then they would do their work from 12:30 to 2:30 or 3, and then they would text me. I'd log back in, after taking a quote unquote nap, and then do my work and then hand it off to the auditors. I mean, it seriously felt like what an army or war hospital shift work would be like. It was insane. And I finally got the call like around 10 o'clock that Friday night of the deadline that the audit partner signed off on the audit. And I couldn't believe it. And so it was it was a tough time for me because it was a lot of stress. There were a lot of moving parts and pieces, and this wasn't even my company. I'm an outside consultant or contractor, so I'm not doing this for a promotion or a raise. I'm doing it because I don't quit, and if I accept a responsibility, I'm going to see through it, even though it's to my detriment. So during that time, my health deteriorated. I had got excessive back issues from sitting for 15 hours a day or more at my desk. I didn't socialize. And so the last few months, I've just been trying to, get back to who the hell is Jen Bainum, and kind of reclaim that part of my life. I mean, at least I was able to work from home during that whole thing. But anyway, that's why I've been gone. And it pisses me off that I didn't put this podcast first and that I let it slide to the back of the list. But all I needed to do was do this one podcast and I can get, right back on track. So it's just weird. Like, today's a Sunday and it's 2020 and there's this coronavirus pandemic. And my husband and I are, we read and we research and we don't take things at face value, and we don't follow conspiracy theory stuff. But we just don't know if this is going to be very, very, very bad in the United States, because it's really bad right now in Italy and obviously China, or if this is all going to blow over. And people are panicking, and there is so much fear. And there's going to be studies and research papers written about this after it's all said and done, about all the fear and how people behave when they have fear. And I have a daughter who is on spring break next week, and we had planned a trip somewhere. Fortunately, I never told her where we were going to go. It was going to be the happiest place on earth, and I actually rescheduled it for May before they actually closed the park down. And so I never told her, so at least I don't have to deal with the relentless questioning of why aren't we going there and her disappointment. I ordered board games for her from Amazon. So we have Connect 4, Sorry, Old Maid, Goldfish. I think we've got Uno Attack coming, because I just need to entertain her as we self-quarantine ourselves in our houses right now. And I went shopping yesterday for the first time because I've been scared. Like, I look at Facebook and people are posting all negative stuff. I mean, every now and then one of my friends posts something kind, like a neighbor helping a neighbor, which I really appreciate. But, I see these pictures of these empty shelves in stores and it freaks me out. And so I have high anxiety anyway. And so it took a lot of courage for me to get myself together yesterday to go out to see what what was I in store with? I knew I wasn't going to find toilet paper, and I'm fine with that. Like, toilet paper doesn't mean you die if you don't have it. It's just gross if you don't. But hey, that's an invention for, today's modern era. So I'm not worried about toilet paper. I want food. I want to make sure I have enough food for my family. And I seriously felt like I was taking on the role of a prehistoric woman going out to forage in the forest to find food for her family. Like, that's literally how I felt when I went to Costco yesterday. And I purposely didn't go when they opened because I didn't want to see the lines. I figured, if people are crazy and they're in fear, I don't want to get run over by someone frantic to get to a certain spot in Costco. So I went I don't know, maybe an hour after they opened. And as I was walking to the entrance, I noticed how little people had in their carts. And I started to get really freaked out. They would have liquid dishwashing detergent, and one other thing. And I thought, oh my God, how bare are the shelves in there that this is all people, is there food in the store? And I brought my own Clorox wipes, and I just constantly was wiping everything, my phone, my wallet, my credit card, obviously the cart. And I'm just, getting to the back of the store where all the food is. And I'm looking at the bins, trying to see if they're empty or not. And there was plenty of food. Plenty of food. I mean, they didn't have the chicken that I normally get, but I'm okay with substitutions. I mean, they had, I got salmon and cod. They had my favorite carnitas meat that I like. I got flank steak. I mean, they were out of hamburger, fine. They had my daughter's gluten-free pizza. They had organic strawberries. I got organic romaine lettuce. I filled my cart with everything that I pretty much normally get. And they had bottled water in the aisles. I still don't understand why people think bottled water is necessary. We can drink from our taps. This isn't like a tornado or hurricane where your water supply is infected. I mean, people have just totally lost their shit. But, the one thing that I didn't find that I'm concerned about is dog food. They didn't have my dog's food. So, it's fine. I'll do a substitute dog food for the short time that we have to do this. But I found people not to be panicked. I didn't see anyone wearing a mask. I found people to be very cordial. And people looked at my cart and they made comments wow, you have really made out here. You have really filled up your cart, as though I was lucky when I'm just getting food off of the aisles. And what I realized is the way me and my family eat is, poultry, fish, meat, produce, and very little of what's in the canned food aisles, and, prepackaged food and, the non-perishable food. And so it just kind of naturally occurred to me that I'm not the, typical quarantine panic shopper, because I don't care if it expires in a couple of days. It was a weird outing, and I went to Sprouts, which is a grocery store, afterwards, and I found plenty of produce and all the milk that, the things. So my daughter, as you know, has autism, and she's very picky about what she eats. So I have to get the unsweetened, almond vanilla milk that Sprouts does that's organic. And I get her red peppers and her yellow peppers, and she likes grapes and strawberries and blueberries and tomatoes. And I have to have her cauliflower crust pizza and her gluten-free tortillas to make quesadillas with. And I was just found everything that I needed. And people were chatting with me in the parking lot have you ever seen a crazy pandemic? One guy said that he saw two women get into a fist fight over a package of toilet paper. And I just am what is wrong with humanity? It's just insane. And yet, we don't know what's going to happen. My goal is to keep Elle as occupied as possible, which is going to involve a lot of her riding her three-wheeler bike and going on a walk with me, me walking my dogs. My real estate business looks like it's just going to, not do anything over the next several weeks or months. And I'm sure not going to get any consulting clients, obviously, unless, I can work from home. Sadie, stop barking. She's going to be the tough one to deal with. But, it's just, how do I keep a kid that, active? And then I'm not sure she's going to actually go back to school after spring break. I don't know how bad this is going to get. But the most defining part of the last few days has been kind of centered around how I feel about what's going on with my son, who is a freshman at the University of Arizona, and how the universities are dealing with something for the first time. And anytime you deal with something for the first time, it's not perfect. So we've had a lot of correspondence from the university, and I'm sure they're doing their best, but a lot of it is, confusing, and they change their minds on what they want to do. So at first it was delay of coming back after spring break, and then it was classes online for a portion of time, and then we finally get the email yesterday that the rest of the semester will all be taken online. And Jack's prepared for that, and his classes he can definitely do online. He doesn't have to go in for labs and things like that, but the last email was, you got to come and move out of your dorm unless you don't have suitable living arrangements. And that's a hard email to read. And you realize that your son's or your child's first year of college is going to end up with them moving out very quickly in an unplanned way when a lot of the students were out of town for spring break, and they have to return and get the hell out. And it's odd. It's such a strange time. And I'm so incredibly sad for him, and he probably isn't sad, because I know how I felt about my college experience. And it's just sad that he's going to end up his freshman year, working out of his bedroom, which is fine. But it's just that rush to get down there. He sent me a picture. We have an SUV, and he went and bought himself a bike rack. And he figured out, he has a toolbox, and he, got it attached to the car. And he's bringing home all of his roommates' bikes and his girlfriend's bike, because the parents went down yesterday and they didn't have enough room to take everything home. I mean, they're leaving stuff behind. It's like scuttle. It's like they're grabbing what they can and getting the hell out of there. And it's so sad. And this is hundreds of thousands of students affected by this. All of my friends, because we're around the same age and our kids are about the same age, we're all in the same boat. They're all sad. Like, all of these college kids are coming home, and it's just not the way you want them to come home. But you do want them to come home because you want them to be with you under your roof, and you want them to be safe and not exposed out in the public. And in Arizona, we've had very, very low cases of this virus, but I'm from the Northwest, and my sister is up outside of Seattle, and my nephew is a high school senior, and all of his stuff is being canceled. They had a dance that was canceled last weekend. He is a varsity baseball player and has always been a very, very strong baseball player, and his season is canceled. I'm sure prom's going to be canceled. I'm sure graduation's going to be canceled. So, he's missing out on the last semester of his high school senior year. And he has requirements that he has to meet in order to continue with one of the colleges that he wants to go to. And it's just weird. It's such a crazy time. We canceled dinner with my parents because my mom hasn't been feeling well. And frankly, we kind of feel like we have no business interacting with friends or family until we know for 14 days and none of us are showing any symptoms. And I don't want to expose my parents. I mean, my father-in-law, he's very vulnerable. I would love to go see him, but I don't want to go see him and bring Elle to him and Jack because they've been out in the public and they've been exposed. So maybe I'll try to do a daily cast as we are in this time, so that people have something to listen to or call in. I don't know. I got to figure that out. But I am so grateful for all of the friendship and support that I have around me. And I know that there are people that don't have that. And in this scary time, I just hope that we can be a society that doesn't fight over toilet paper, because toilet paper isn't life or death. We are going to be, they call it the social distancing. I mean, we're very fortunate in that my husband can work from home. I'm going to be at home. I don't know how much I'm going to be working, but let's just see what happens and let's not panic and do what's right. And I have been successful for all of you parents of special needs kids. I'm doing one thing at a time to teach my daughter. And the first thing we've worked on is washing hands. And she has never been a good hand washer, but she now knows how to lather her hands and work the soap all around in between the fingers, around the thumbs, and all those places that typically get missed for 20 seconds. So I don't have Purell because we're just going to wash our hands. So one social story at a time for, these kiddos that don't understand why we're going to be self-contained at home, is we have to engage and play board games and do all the things that we probably did, 20 years ago. I mean, thankfully we have, the internet and Netflix, and I am probably going to binge watch The Office again for like the 8th time, and would love recommendations for other shows to binge watch. But just be safe, friends, and hang in there. This will pass, and let's see where we end up on the other side. Whoop, whoop to you all out there. This is Jen.